I was there when Nick found out his brother passed away.
Wow.
And I was in Manchester, and their family room was right next to my dressing room.
I have chills. That's
And
horrible.
man, I remember opening the door, like there was this door, and to get to my dressing room and the family room were in the same. There was
Hey, I go by knowledge, and I done tour the world. And the more I see, the more questions I got. But things are getting crazier. Misinformation is everywhere. So I'm on a mission to find the best minds with answers on how we fix it. It's time to drop some knowledge. Let's go.
Welcome to another episode of Dangerous Knowledge. Today, I'm excited because I'm about to go deep with someone that I think has one of the coolest jobs in the world. And it resonates with me a lot. And of course, a lot of the fans of the Backstreet Boys know that. But this is Boyband Stacy. She is the world's foremost expert on boy band everything. She's managed boy bands. She's a social media expert. And she's just an all-around awesome person. I've been following her on Instagram for years. I absolutely love the way she takes people behind the scenes and shows more than just the front of what it takes or what fans think of boy bands. She takes you behind the scenes. She shows you not just their personal side. She shows you the challenges of the music industry in general. Boyband Stacy, welcome to Dangerous Knowledge.
Thank you for having me. And same, I've known about you since I think the Backstreet Boys tour
Right?
in Europe. So it's nice to finally connect with you.
You know,
Thank you for the awesome intro. That was so kind of you.
you know, I believe, I'll tell you something. The whole boy band world, when I got the confirmation to do Backstreet Boys, I was, through the moon, but I had no idea. I had no idea what I was signing up for.
Most people don't.
Yeah.
It's a different genre from any other form of even pop music. It's a slightly different, but pop music is very different. Fan bases, and I would say mostly the fan base is just different in how they respond to other genres.
Right. And
And composed of different types of, like it's a very female dominant fan base.
right. But they have a very family dynamic where there's a lot of love, there's some drama, there's some hate, there's
Like
a
a family, like any good family, like you're saying.
right. And I feel like I'm my own little part of it in my own little way, which has been fantastic. This Backstreet Boys run, I had some fan/friends from Europe, even stay with me. And I'll tell you what, like some of these people know a lot, but I don't think they know what you know. I mean, just
I'll
before
be
the
honest, people say this all the time. I don't want to totally put myself on the spot. I called myself Boyband Stacy because obviously boy bands are my true love. I know TRL boy bands. So people will bring up other boy bands to me and they're like, "Oh, you know blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Shoot, actually no. If you were on TRL, I knew you." But I am very interested in learning the backstories on the other ones because they're all, I've found, intertwined in ways that you wouldn't know they were intertwined.
yes,
So there are a lot more, I would say, experts than I might be on actual boy bands, but I like to figure out how they all have tied in, and then the music side of it, or the business side of it. That's the part
right,
that I am most interested in is the business and what happened to them, where they are now,
right,
where could they go,
right.
those sorts of things. So I am a little bit ignorant on all boy bands, but once you tell me, I'm very interested in finding out.
I think that's you said something critical there, which is the backstory, and even like I'm actually writing my own book right now because
Oh,
there's
cool.
I have we were talking just before, right? I have some insane stories, like some of them. I mean, it is a roller coaster, and that's where most people don't realize is
Yes.
they don't even see the low lows, and it's the dynamics of the music industry.
And that is kind of, you mentioned social media expert, and part of our job on social media is to be real, but Not everybody wants to see the lowest of the low.
Right.
And social media really is a highlight reel. And for me, I use it as motivational, aspirational.
Right. For sure.
Truly, there's only a very close circle of friends, 2 to 3, that actually go through the very, very low lows with you.
Right.
And know
Exactly.
about it.
Exactly.
It's just yourself, because nobody else relates to it. But what you said is so true, that there is very high highs, which is what we all do it for. It comes with very low lows, but it makes those highs, those lows are
that much
worth it
more
for the
fulfilling.
highs.
That's a great way to put it. You went from superfan to industry insider. Was there like a specific moment when you realized this isn't a passion, like it's an actual career?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say career, but a business. I realized it was a business at a very, very young age. I was a teenager.
No way.
Yeah, I was entrenched in all of, like, the precursor to social media was AOL.
Right.
I'm a millennial, true millennial, and AOL had just come out when I was in high school, which was the same time as the Backstreet Boys. And I was very, very into hip hop. You could not get me to listen to pop music.
Me too.
That was not my thing. Me too.
I was way too cool.
Same.
Or so I thought.
I wasn't that cool, but I thought I was cooler than pop music.
Right, right.
But there was something about that Backstreet Boys Millennium album that just, I don't know what it did for me, but I loved the music. I think it was the Max Martin stuff that was just...
Yes.
Andrew Fromm wrote some songs on that album that to this day are still my favorite. They play them at the Sphere. Something about that album clicked, and that was when AOL was forming, and so I started joining these fan chat rooms with other fans, and I saw how driven they were to like see everything that was on TV. And obviously we were in high school. You can't see everything on TV. You have to go to school.
Right, but the internet was new. This is before social media.
So I started this business out of my bedroom in high school where I just recorded every episode they were on, like
no way
shows, TRL, whatever it was that people would miss and I would dub them all together.
Because this was before internet. People don't realize when you miss the show, it's gone.
It's gone. So I would record them and then I would dub them all together. I had 2 VCRs set up and it was like,
oh my God,
the footage. So I would hit play when I went to school. When I came home from school, it was dubbed, and then I would mail those off and send them to other fans. And I had a whole like eBay business of it. I had other chat room friends. So that was how I paid to go see all the concerts I wanted to go see of them, was just selling tapes to other fans.
And I think what's so important to that is just recognizing, and this is the part that so many people have a hard time with, from artists to fans, is linking the business side to the artistry of it. Mm-hmm. And I think that the two don't exist without the other.
No, in an ideal world, we create just to create, but it doesn't pay the bills. And so you have to find the happy balance of like, how can I pay bills while doing what I love?
Exactly.
And then you found the magic.
Exactly. Like when I was like, this was all, I think I'm a little older than you. So like I was in college. I still remember the first time I ever heard the Backstreet Boys. They were on a compilation mix.
Oh, okay.
And I remember being with a couple of my college buddies. We're all like hip hoppers, right? And we're like, are these black guys or white guys? We were like trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? And never in my life did I think that they would become what they became. Like it was incredible.
Well, and to everyone would be like, oh, it's just a phase. And then here we are 30 years later. And I had kind of like, I knew New Kids on the Block from an older cousin, my older cousin.
See, I remember them very well.
So I watched, they had like a Boston homecoming tape. I think I watched ad nauseum at my grandma's house with my older cousin. But when they came around the first Magic Summer Tour, they came to Phoenix, which is where I'm from. And I asked my parents to go, and my parents were like, oh, no, you'll get trampled. And granted, I was 6 or 7 years old, so it was, when Backstreet Boys came around, I was 16. I was like, that was when I was primed. Now, New Kids on the Block resurgence. I was definitely old enough to
primed for that
to get on that and make up for lost time. But Backstreet Boys are what really kind of started it for me. And I loved NSYNC too. I love 98 Degrees. Like, if you were on TRL, LFO, and you were a pop act,
I remember LFO.
Love
I remember
it.
that one song. I love
Couple
the...
Girls,
Yes, that's the one.
great song. And it's still like, seeing that song on tour now, everybody erupts for that song. Like, it's such a huge, huge song. And Brad Fischetti, the remaining member of LFO, is probably one of the most humble, insightful, down-to-earth artists you will ever meet. I
think a certain magic happens when you experience a really high high, and he's achieved significant fame, but it's not overarching worldwide. He could walk down the street and probably no one would recognize him.
And truthfully, a lot of these guys can too if they're not with
Totally.
the whole band. When you
I
get it together
totally.
with the whole band, then people,
Totally.
not to say they don't get recognized at all, but like, it's not pandemonium unless you're with the whole band. Then it's like,
Right, and that is an interesting dynamic that we should actually get into, because without, they're almost like Voltron or like the Transformers when they
Totally.
become the suit. They're so much more powerful.
I was
when they're
actually having this conversation with a fan at a show. I have been working some New Kids on the Block shows, and when I was talking to a fan at a show, and she stopped me and she said, "How do you keep your chill, like, backstage, not, in normal situations?" And I'm like, to me, when you get in any artist, it's, a Joey Fatone or Alex from Backstreet Boys. It's like, you get them one-on-one and we have normal conversations.
They're the realest. They want real people. What people forget is that
I want to know, like, what are you up to? How's
Totally.
the family doing? And to me, it's a total same thing with New Kids, same thing with any artist.
Because they're human beings.
Yeah, and it's, for me, when I see them
Right.
on stage, and the greatest thing of accomplishment of my life is getting to walk any artist to that stage and watch them go out there. Like, that gives me chills.
That's awesome.
Every single time.
That's amazing.
And when I come back and then watch them, I'm like, to me, that's a totally different person than I just interacted with 15 minutes ago.
And you're right. When people see me on stage, I am a very, very different person. They're always shocked.
And it's kind of like, I would say, Boyband Stacy on Instagram. Like, that to
Sure.
me is a persona.
It's a persona.
It's part of who I am, but that's not who
Yep.
I am all the time. And so people often want to just talk to me straight about what so-and-so is doing on this band, and I don't have a clue half the time. I'm like, this is a persona I put out. I love boy bands. I want to support them all, but
You're not an encyclopedia.
Yeah, that's just not who I am. And it's
Right.
the same thing with all of these entertainers. To me, it's still like, even though I can have a phone call with one of them, just about everyday stuff, and then I
Right.
see them on stage later, it's like I get a holy shit moment.
Yeah.
That is
Same,
all, on the block. That is in sync.
I know, right? You're like, that's the guy I talked to on the phone with.
It doesn't click to me that it's the same person, because I'm like,
Yeah.
that's their stage persona.
Right.
They're the same person. It's just not, I don't talk to them about stage stuff, so
Right.
it's just very,
And they don't want that. I mean, even for me, when my greatest friendship, do you know who Fat Man Scoop is or was?
I don't know.
So he's, the song, you got $100 bill, put your hands up.
Yeah.
You got it. Right. So he was my idol. He's who I started like wanting to be like. And then he became one of my closest friends. And we talked there were literally times we would barely talk about the music business,
Yeah.
and unfortunately he passed away, 2 years ago. I actually talk about that in my book, and I can relate very much about what you're saying, which is they really need human beings around them, and they don't want, even they are a persona to a large extent.
Yeah, and there's some instances, like, when I was managing a band, they do want some feedback on their performance,
Sure.
and I'm happy to, if asked, or,
Right.
the situation arises, I can make recommendations or will give my feedback. Not that
Right,
it really matters, but, you know, for the most part, I care about their well-being and them as a person, and so it's not. They have other people. They have labels that they can respond to. That
Right.
all that stuff. Like, unless I'm asked, it's not my business.
Because you bridge the gap between artists and fans in such a unique way. So like, what do fans not understand? What's actually happening behind the scenes?
I think probably one of the biggest things is they think that we have like a 2-hour job, and that you probably experience this a lot, that you have
Yep.
like a 2-hour really fun job and then you get to go home. And so I think most people don't realize it's an all-day job, and then
Yes.
even when you're done at night, you still have other things you have to tie up.
Absolutely.
And even if it's not a show day, there might be other things scheduled, like press that people
Yep.
don't know about. So like I often will get approached to like, do you want to come for a drink before the show? Do you want to go to dinner?
Right.
I really don't have a show this day. Do you want to plan something? But it's like I can't make those plans because I have things that other people don't, like, you know, we don't announce
Right.
press shoots. So there's
There's
other
so much
things.
more going on that
There's other
most
things
people.
going, yeah. And when I'm there, I also am like, I'm there paid by the artist, a promoter, an agency, someone. Like, I'm not going to use their dime to go have fun with my friends. Like, that's a personal trip. But I think the perception is, a lot of it is Boyband Stacy. People think I'm just out there being Boyband Stacy and don't know that I have an actual job too out there on the road. But a lot of it is the misconception that like you only have to work during the show and that there isn't things going on during off days.
Right.
Or
Right.
show.
And there's so much going on, right? And so, you know, like even the people that aren't in, let's say, boy band world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a difference between how fans behave when they think no one is watching versus like, you know, what happens in these chat groups? We were kind of referencing it earlier. Or is there like drama? Like, you know, you've started these groups on AOL back in the day,
Yeah,
right?
you know, that's a good question. I guess I just am more aware of the chattering going on in the boy band world, although truthfully, when I don't have a whole lot of time to like look at it, so
Right.
I have real life friends that will send me pictures of like, did you see this? And I'm like,
Oh yeah.
no, I didn't see it.
Right.
But I would say it's hard. It's like the boy band stuff is maybe more catty amongst women, whereas like the hip hop world gets a lot more like when I do all the 90s tour socials. I'm their social media manager.
Oh, okay.
So I look at that, and there's a lot of I think it's just the climate we're in right now in this country. There's a lot of political division.
Yeah.
That's more of what the comments are, more so than boy bands. But there has been some boy band drama around political stuff when guys
Yeah.
sway one way or the other.
Yeah, I remember with the Backstreet Boys fans. Yeah.
It swings both ways. It happens with all the bands. It's like both sides go at each other. So I don't know. I think I try not to pay too much attention to it because it just has no relevance in like career.
I think I mean so I wonder how much are the actual members of these bands, do they actually ever watch this stuff, or are they just
Not
completely
often. It depends on the band. Some band members are very, very active on that and will look.
Oh,
A lot of them hire social media managers and are not looking, or they look at certain things. Like some like to look at posts and DMs and things like that, but don't want to read comments. I've found the most common thing with artists is a lot of them don't like to read the comment section. That's not all. Some do. Some read
Okay.
the comments and respond.
okay.
But a lot of them don't, just because if there's a negative comment, it's like that
It sets you
one
down a
just
path
sends
and it
out.
gives it oxygen.
Yeah, and unnecessarily. It's like
Yeah.
most of the time it's somebody with no profile picture and it's not a real person, but it
Right.
still gets under your skin, and like, why ruin your day like that when
Right.
you don't have to?
There's so much more to balance in this than people realize. And that's where someone like you, your many hats, right? So like, what does a day on the road actually look like that people won't see on social media?
Sure. So every job is different, every artist, because I've taken on multiple roles. I've done social media management. I've done artist management. I would say I'll talk about artist management, like when I was on the road with the boy band I managed, that was, we talked a little bit before we started recording. 2 of the members were original NSYNC members, but there's a lot, first of all, before the day of the show, there's a lot leading up to it. You have to sign the contracts with the venues. You have to decide, are you doing a 4-wall? Are you getting a guarantee? What type of show are you doing? This particular day I'm going to speak about, we did a 4-wall deal. So I'm building the ticket packages. I get the ticket pricing.
Wow.
I'm also creating VIP experiences. I had a company that a friend of mine owns that came in to help with that, facilitate it, because there's only one of me. So we brought them in. Shout out to Day One's VIP. They came in and executed our ideas greatly and were a huge help. And then procuring the merchandise, which again, Day One's did that too, but it's deciding what budget are we going to spend? What are we going to sell? The ticketing platform was a lot. And then day of show, when you're working with a smaller band, you've got to make sure if you're 4-walling a place, it's your job to bring in, obviously they have water, but we had to bring in all the hospitality stuff that was going to be in the room.
That's a lot of work.
4-wall deal, yeah. So we're bringing in, it's food, snacks. We had an opener.
People have no idea the enormous logistics involved.
It was, I didn't sleep for at least 50 hours leading into that and after.
Yeah.
And it was to this day, probably one of the most rewarding days of my life. And then, getting all the family situated with tickets, because there's 4 members. So you have to have all of their families taken care of.
Of course.
All of their travel to and from, how many parking spaces we have, where the merch is going to get loaded in. Then you meet the local sound people and the local lighting people and make sure they're on board with all that's going to go on. We block the stage, which the guys did that stuff, blocking the stage. Mine was more of okay, security, this band needs this, these people get in this area, and then just making sure overall it runs smoothly. If anybody has questions, they ask me. So it's just a lot. And then once you get them on stage, then it's okay, now I can take a breath. I remember.
Ironically, yeah.
I remember I had to go to the bathroom so bad, but I just did not have a chance to pee all day because I was going nonstop. So I just remember I wanted to watch their opening number so badly. So I sat off the side of the stage, watched that, and I was finally able to go to the bathroom. And then I came back out and enjoyed the rest of the show. And then it's all chaos again when the show ends, because then they do meet and greet and we're loading out and we're trying to clear the room. And, you're the first ones in and last ones out. And so, but getting to watch it once they're on stage and you're from afar and seeing, wow,
job well done.
Pulled this off with a very little team of really just 6 of us. It was, the 4 band members, we had a sound guy / video guy and myself. And it was really cool it was sold out, which was amazing.
Incredible.
And just, those are the moments where I'm step back, and even to this day, it'll be 2 years next week where I'm holy shit, that was really cool to pull that off.
Wow.
Really cool.
Wow. And I'm so glad. I think more people need to realize just how much work goes behind the scenes,
Yeah. And not to say it's 100% worth it.
For sure, but
worth it, or we wouldn't keep doing it.
Of course, but there's times you're I hate this job. I mean, no, never. I've had a few of those moments, and I'm
I've had some where this is not the best moment, but I'm I have to I'm a big picture person, so I'm even though this moment sucks, what I'm doing as a whole is so cool that
that's a good way to put it. I mean,
I'm always in gratitude of the opportunity.
Of course. I mean, even me as an opener, right? Sometimes I go, holy smokes, right? How many DJs would give their right arm to do the acts that I've opened for?
And you were huge. I know you from Backstreet Boys, but you guys did. You opened for huge arenas in Europe, and the European fans are wild.
And I don't share this story often, but my first day with them on the DNA tour, I did the sound check. Everything went great. I kid you not, my gear malfunctioned just before I started. And I had my assistant, and he went up on stage. He's like, dude, I don't know what's wrong. It's not working. And I'm like talking to the production manager. I'm like, let me up, man. I got to fix this. There's no one else that could do this but me. So I'm up there with the sound tech, and we are troubleshooting everything. And there's 25,000 people looking at us. I have never sweated so bad in my life. In my life, I have never been so scared.
And what happened?
I was truly questioning my existence and why I ever wanted to DJ. And I literally, at the end of it, was about to give up. And I just said, I'm just going to reset everything. And I did that, and it worked. 10 minutes later, I got one of the most viral videos in my career.
Well,
so great.
And now look at what a new tool in your tool belt to know if that ever happened. This is the thing, is I've had a number of technology malfunctions, and it's like you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah,
you just
until you're on stage. But one of the things, I teach DJs all the time, learn your gear, learn everything. And then, it still might go wrong like it did, right?
It does. And you just have to know how, okay, this has happened before. This is how I fix it, because it's live.
And there's people watching, about 25,000 of them.
Even if you're glitching, you got to figure out what to do.
Yep. I was literally this close to tapping out.
I will say that you're talking about the stuff people might not know too, is that pressure. And even though I'm not the artist, is that a lot
you
of
feel it.
Technical stuff does revolve on me saying it's going to work. So if it doesn't work, it looks bad on them. They're the forward facing.
That's what people don't understand. There's so much that goes into production. And it's so important, as the DJ, if the sound people screw that up, I look bad.
Yeah.
And the average person doesn't understand. That's not me,
Right.
And I wish people understood these dynamics more. And maybe that's why, we got to have conversations like this. I think a lot of the fans, when they really dive deep into it, right? And you told, we got to talk about this story, because what I find so interesting about what you know of this is connecting the dots between these people.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people know the crazy stories, like the Lou Pearlman, of course, controversy, a lot of the fans, but I didn't even know, and I knew that there were some previous members of the Backstreet Boys. I didn't know that NSYNC was in the same position.
Yes. Sorry, I'm Diet Coke break, not sponsored by it, but...
That's okay. I'll take. Where's my water? I thought I had a water bottle here. Oh, there it is. This is good. This is good, man.
For whatever reason, I think because in high school, the boy band explosion really happened in Orlando. And I always just kind of associated Orlando as the boy band capital of the United States.
Right.
And when I got approached to work with C-Note, which was one of Lou Pearlman's bands.
Original,
area.
Yeah, I remember O-Town and LFO and C-Note.
And a bunch of other. They had Take 5. They had, or not Take 5. Take 5 or Take That, which is the one with, not the Robbie Williams one. Whatever one is not Robbie Williams. So it's either Take 5 or Take, I think it's Take 5, because Take That, I think, was Robbie Williams. But they had Take 5, they had Natural, they had Innocence, the girl.
I remember Innocence. Because I remember all this on Britney Spears, and she had, Immature. Do you remember?
Yes.
And IMX?
Britney Spears was, I think an original member of Innocence. Then she left to go solo, but her mom was the manager of Innocence.
Yes.
So they were all and there's a number of other boy bands I'm forgetting besides just the ones I named.
Oh, I mean.
They were all in TransCon, all in Orlando. And then there's boy band adjacent members from other bands that,
Yes.
like I'm not going to get the years right because I wasn't there, but in like 2005, 6, when like 98 Degrees had ended,
Yes.
Jeff Timmons came down to Orlando and was kind of like mixing with the Transcon Circle producing and
Right.
learning that stuff. A couple members of New Kids on the Block came down, did the same thing. Danny Wood was one of the first producers that C-Note worked with.
Really?
I actually have one of the
No
songs
way.
on my phone.
So Danny Wood is a producer too.
What's that?
Danny Wood is a producer? No way.
Yeah, so it's a really cool song that he did for them. So he was intertwined. Jordan Knight did some songs, and then one of
No
my
way.
members was
See, I had no idea. This is,
vocals for
you know,
Jordan Knight.
no way.
The way that they were all, even though those guys are Boston boy bands, and
No way. Yeah.
Jeff Timmons is Ohio, but like they all in that era before things, Lou Pearlman
That was Maurice Starr, right?
Maurice Starr was the Boston,
And he started with New Edition.
New Edition and New Kids.
And then in a New Kids. And
But
then
it's
it was
interesting to me that there's so many negative stories about Lou and all true and all that. What the good part that came of it everybody else working for him were honest.
Yes.
I can't say everybody. That's a big strong word.
You know what?
Majority of people had good intentions, were
Yes.
very hard workers. They
Yes.
are a very tight family to this day. I felt honored to be included in
Yes.
since I started with C-Note to get
Right.
introduced to all of these players that
Right.
were there. They all got screwed too. Big time.
It's, the music business. I just saw a study come out of Canada, and artists, the level of mental health issues are enormous. Enormous.
Because those highs and lows, man. Those highs and lows are so extreme.
Yes, and it's getting worse. And I find it so Lou is it's so morally complex, right? And I would I don't know the story probably as much as you have, but I do know it enough to say there was a net positive with what he did.
I think.
And that's not fair to and there's a lot of people that were hurt. There's people that lost their life savings and truly awful things. So we have to be clear that, and we have to be clear that he did some truly awful things and he deserved to go to jail. But there would be none of this without him. That's the morally complex, that's the hard part.
It is very hard. And the sentiment from a lot, not all, but a lot of members that worked with him are that the net positive was they had this experience and this exposure and this platform and the relationships that have sustained it for 30 years. Those were the positives. The negatives were stuff, obviously the families that lost their whole life savings and the stuff
and so much more terrible things that he did.
For a lot of those artists, they got record deals ripped away from them and
their
careers.
And I have so much enormous respect for the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. They were these young men, right? And I can't even imagine the pressure of leaving him and being told, sure, let's see what you could do, you bunch of kids, right?
Especially when at the time,
it's easy to look back now.
Hindsight's 2020, but at
right, it's easy to say now, they did the right thing, but at the time,
and at the time they didn't know all this. Nobody knew what was really going on, so it's hard to say you'd make that decision when you don't have all the information. So it's very easy in hindsight to say what he did, but in the moment he was the game.
He was exactly, and I have so much respect for I just think of myself when I was that age, like what I would have done. You know what I mean? Here are these young men with enormous pressure on them.
Well, and the way he did it back then is not kind of how it's done. Maybe some labels now. I'm no expert at what labels do. That is out of my realm. I'm more into touring. But for the way they were set up with Transcon, it was like this guy is going to pay you to live in your house, give you a salary, get you your clothes. Like that would be a really hard thing to give up for the chance that you could make it with another
Exactly.
label. There's going to be some limbo time where you're not going to have any paycheck. You know, it's like,
yeah,
those were the hard decisions these guys
right.
would have had to make, which what 18, 19-year-old is going
It's
to be
crazy.
Like, I'm going to lose my house. I'm going to lose my money for a chance.
And
maybe I'll get somewhere over there. But
the
this guy
PR,
hasn't done all this, so.
And imagine what the PR would have been. Oh, these spoiled kids, or
Sure.
they could have said, you know what I mean? That might have
That's
gone
a very
along.
good point.
And they were very, very brave. I really, you know, this is.
Had, you know, the hard part too is they had a really good team around them. Like some of their team is
Totally.
still around them today. Like just somebody off the top of my head that I would mention. I don't know if you know Carrie Sellards, but Carrie Sellards is out with Chris Kirkpatrick now, and
No
she's
way.
been around since the Transcon days, and she
No way.
is a trustworthy, very
Yeah.
smart, very honest. That's why she's still around. But like you,
Right.
people were surrounded by people like her, by people like Gary Williams, who's a vocal coach and is an outstanding human being, and they had such good teams around them. Why would you like, obviously those guys didn't know anything going on. He kept such a good secret. So it's like if you were going to leave him, potentially you were going to leave your family of these really
Exactly. And I can't even imagine. I mean, I look at I of course know the Backstreet Boys far more than I know any of the other groups. And I have so much respect for them. I have changed as a person because of what I saw backstage with them.
Wow.
You know, I was there when Nick found out his brother passed away.
Wow.
And I was in Manchester, and their family room was right next to my dressing room.
I have chills. That's horrible.
Man, I remember opening the door, like there was this door, and to get to my dressing room and the family room were in the same. There was Nick, man. Man, we just looked at each other in the eye, and I wanted to hug him, man. I knew what he was going through, but, you know, protocol, like I had to respect and I, you know, as a musician, I mean, there's a whole other lane we can go into mental health and these personality traits. And I'll say this, I can relate exactly to what he's going through, and I knew what he was going through, and it's not even close to what people see. And for him,
go ahead, finish what you.
Well, I'd say like clearly he had like his brother had a personality disorder, and people have no idea how hard that is, because I've had the same with my family, and I know how incredibly challenging it is. So for someone public like Nick to go through that and then to experience what he experienced, I really felt for him.
For sure. I have a question for you, because
Sure.
you mentioned like protocol. I'd be curious, because I know, but I don't think a lot of fans know, is like, I think the perception is when you are a support act for any of these guys, you all just hang out in one room.
I know, right?
Your best friends, you go hang out.
Totally.
Anything.
And I got him on speed dial.
Yeah.
I'm like, AJ, let's go hang out, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, is there anything you would share that people don't understand about, like, when your support, and even the main artists, they're not all in the same room hanging out together all the time.
Very rarely. And sometimes, not in this case, but sometimes they hate each other.
Yeah.
Right? Not in the Backstreet Boys,
right.
Just to be clear. But, you know, I've been very fortunate. I've opened for Ariana Grande, Backstreet Boys, Mariah Carey, you know, and then I became the official tour DJ for Ice Cube most recently.
Awesome.
Yeah, incredible individuals. And, you know, but, you know, the Backstreet Boys are unique for me because their fans really embraced me, especially in Europe, because they saw, and I really dive deep into the shows. Here's a story, like, to tell you the kind of guys the Backstreet Boys are. I was in Poland, and there's a whole other side story on how I met my assistants there, which is really cool. But they're teaching. I love to learn languages. So we're in Poland, and I'm like, teach me some Polish to say to the crowd, right? So they're teaching me stuff, and I'm yelling it, Lecimy Polska, and all these things. And so there's the dressing room, and then there's this door in the side, like kind of dividing the two dressing rooms. And the side door gets a knock. was like, who could that be? It's Kevin.
Wow.
And he opens the door. You know what he said? He's like, hey, bro, can you keep it down a little? And I'm like, oh, my God. Like, I was so shocked, right? I was so embarrassed. I had no idea they were right next to me, right? And like, what a classy guy, you know? Like, if the position was reversed, I'd be like, bro, turn it down now. You know, he was so cool about it. He was, you know.
Did you ever learn that in hotels too? Because I've learned that in hotel where I'm like, who was that staying next door to me at the hotel where I'm like, oh yeah, I was talking way too loud.
Walls have ears.
Yeah.
First thing you say, like, don't say any, you know, one of my biggest things I dread is.
Not that it was anything bad. It was
No, but you never know, right?
That is like, other people can hear me, and I'm like, I'm trying to sleep.
It's stressful, right? Because I've brought people, and let me, you know, like sometimes I have to do an assistant here, and most of the time they're great, but you just never know. So you're always like, you're on edge because like I need someone to help me, and sometimes I'm in a different city or whatever.
That's a good point that you brought up too, is like you're kind of always on.
Yes.
Which is
great point.
Good and bad, because when you go home, this is a bad joke, and because none of these guys are like police officers, none of them are. But
yeah.
I make a joke that when I go home and I'm actually at home, I'm like, it's so weird not having to call into my parole officer today to find out, like, you know, because you're used to getting your DOS.
You have to. It's stressful.
Before, and then from the DOS, you also need to make some follow-up calls to make sure, like, it's this time for this artist and this time, you know. And so to go from that daily to your first day off, I mean, that's why a lot of people struggle with the transition of going home, is because you just go from this 24/7 thing to, oh, it's quiet. I have nobody to check in with.
And at first it feels amazing, and then you miss it. Then you're like, oh, you know, I love,
That's why
you know.
it's like a sweet spot. I'm home for 2 weeks, and then like I needed this 2 weeks, and then I'm excited I'll be ready to get back out again in 2 more weeks. But it's helpful to have the downtime to just and also
decompress
to remember what is important to you, your family, because you get so consumed in life, and you know eventually it comes to an end, not forever, but it does come to an end, and then you're not out again until a couple months from now or whenever their next gig is. And so it's nice to have that time at home so you don't forget like my dog, I miss my dog, and my son, and you know, like there are things that are more important, that it helps keep you grounded, that it's not.
I just got to say this. You, from the short time we've been talking, you have this wonderful self-awareness and a grip on all of it. And that is a very special skill. It is very hard for people, like you said, you know, it's a persona, and you have to recognize, and then you have to remember your own humanity with your pets and your kids.
Well, I'm also 43, and so it was different when I was 20. I didn't necessarily have that perspective, but I took so many years off. I took 15 years off to raise my son, and that was my whole life. And then I had to dip back into the Boyband Stacy was how I introduced myself back into the industry to start.
No way.
It's all about your network.
Of course. Of course. And there's no shame in that.
Yeah.
I mean,
and so that was my way to reconnect about like, I'm back out here. This is what I'm doing to promote. This is what I'd like to be doing. And that was the tool I used because it was COVID, and that was
I think
perfect timing for it. But I think having that perspective as I'm not 20 anymore, I don't know that I would have that kind of insight if it had I.
But here you ever go to Mexico and you see those shirts? I'm 21 with like 20 years of experience or whatever. That's kind of what you're doing, right? Like you've managed yourself so well. It's so easy because of all these challenges that we've talked about to have easily gone the wrong way. I mean, you know.
Well, you see it. And, you know, when you're around it enough, you see both sides and how people who take care of themselves do. And how people who don't make good decisions struggle more than others. So,
I will say with every star I went, that's what really impressed upon me with Backstreet Boys, Ice Cube. I mean, here's Ice Cube, the father of gangster rap, and he's a father of like 4 kids or 5, and been married since the early 90s, and Family Guy. I'm like, this isn't very good for his image, but it's awesome. You know what I mean? Like,
I think
it's amazing. That's what I mean. And that's
the human side of them too, which is what I try to show. Like something I really love is like Danny Wood is a grandfather, and he loves to talk about his.
I saw one of your clips.
And on his page, and he loves talking about it, and it's like that's the stuff that's humanizing.
Right.
That I think people relate to that kind of stuff a lot.
I agree.
And not just the stage stuff is great.
I agree.
We all come out to see, but getting
exactly
to see that human side, I think, is also really important to the building a strong fan base that cares about you.
I couldn't agree more. When I would see even Ice Cube's people around him, from the first time I ever did a show with him was in Alaska, and that's the same thing. Blew me away. His team was just amazing people, and I wish up and coming artists really saw that, because
I agree with you. That's how I felt even before working with them. I was around a lot because I had friends on the tour, and the positivity that is New Kids on the Block.
Yes.
I just don't know. I've never been around long enough to know a lot of the other crews, but like, man, they're just so positive, like very healthy. It's very hard not
I'm very big into my health myself.
Yeah, it's very hard not to find someone in the crew or a crew. Alcohol is very prevalent in the industry. It's well accepted. It's tolerated. That's not how this crew operates.
Amazing.
It's
I'm the same way.
It's so
nice. I'm the same.
And not only that, just health perspective wise, but just like the helping each other out. And what I noticed specifically before I even knew the crew is from the guys is that they don't pass a single worker in the hotel, in the arena, and don't want to know their name. Like the security guard that's holding the door open for them.
Amazing.
And that we see at the loading dock every day. They want to know their name and address them by name. And
man,
I don't know first.
Are they doing any more shows here?
Yeah, they'll be back in. We've got a June run. It's end of June into July, and then again in October.
I gotta come by for one of these shows.
It's such a cool show. And I went to college in Las Vegas, so I used to work in venues there. So Penn and Teller is still one of my favorite shows.
No way! I love Penn and Teller too.
I've seen
I love
Penn and
them.
Teller at least 200 times.
I'm such a huge fan. I love Penn and Teller.
That's like my bar, and there hasn't been another show I've liked as much where I can see it over and over again without having like a job. But this new kids residency, the Right Stuff residency, I find something new every night that I didn't see.
No way.
Before. And I've seen it so many times now.
That's so awesome.
It's so cool to notice these like new things. And then like I said, that the whole environment is great. And then just seeing how down to earth all of the guys are wanting to know everybody's name. It's just like I forget names, and the fact that they're still on it and remember.
Totally.
There's another artist that does similar, Brad Fischetti from LFO.
Yes.
He's out with the Pop 2000 tour, and so he does a set, like the O-Town guys are doing a set, and somewhere in his wizardly way, in between numbers, he writes handwritten thank you notes to all the crew that were there, were like the sound guy. Yeah, so nice.
That's incredible.
He writes handwritten
thank you
notes to them, thanking them for what they do, because it's
so cool.
Oftentimes thankless jobs, and I've kind of taken a note out of Brad's page that I'll do that for our tour manager now, just because New Kids on the Block current tour manager is a wizard. He is a wizard.
It is the most underratedly difficult job.
He's there countless hours, and you can ask, he's dealing with a lot of people.
Of course.
You can ask him any question, and he gets back to you within 2 to 3 minutes. I'm like,
you have
how
to.
Does he do? I text him, and within 2 to 3 minutes, and I'm like, I'm not an artist, so like, I can only imagine how quickly he gets back. I'm every day I call him a wizard because I'm like, I don't know how he does it.
Incredible. You
But
have.
there's a couple of, they're really down to earth, humble like that. Brad Fischetti, it's just so nice. They say never meet your idols, but like when you have idols like those.
For me, it was Fat Man Scoop, and it was the best thing for me.
Yeah, it's really, maybe if you caught him on a bad day, some of them, but like I have yet to experience meeting an idol that if you approach the right way.
It's you know what it is? It's a respect thing.
Yeah.
You're
not bothering them in the middle of their food, or you're not having to have a selfie. You're just trying to say, like, I appreciate what you're doing. I love this song. So some people just want the picture because they're the celebrity, but like if you actually know, like this one song really hit me this way, they're so appreciative. Who isn't? That's their art.
I can't tell you how many cities I go to, and I'm blown away by how much, like, even when I did the Backstreet Boys, when I went the second time, I didn't even say like, hey, I'll be at this. I just said, hey, I just put my heading to Portugal, and there was like 30 people waiting at the airport. I was like, whoa.
Oh, you had your own entourage.
I know, and they were so genuine, and I still talk to a lot of them. Like,
that's awesome.
Like, I will forever, eternally, I will go to my grave being eternally grateful to the Backstreet Boys.
How did you get set up with that tour?
That's a whole story. I actually talk about it in my book. I want to send you an early manuscript of my book. Okay. I'm really curious to get your take on it.
Cool.
I literally had just done a show in Miami. I was so tired. Like, I passed out on his couch, and I wake up my mentor. He tried to call me, and then I look at my phone, and he's like, Backstreet Boys, call me ASAP. I was like, he's like, so they're looking for an opener, their DNA tour starting in Europe in about a month. And there's about 80 acts they're going through. I've put your name in the hat. Like, and my mentor has a lot of pull in the industry. He's an old school Canadian rocker that hates DJs. So when we met, and this was, now over 15 years ago, and he had me do a massive event, and what really impressed him was how serious I took the gig. I really dived deep into understanding what the needs were of the client, and to this day, that's how Live Nation pitches me to artists. They say, this is not like any opener. Number one, he's 2 hours early. We all know how artists are, right? So he shows up early. He will work with the artist, whatever, the do's and the don'ts. Reliability is a big one, right? And I'm very easy production-wise. I use a DJ deck. I don't use the 3000s, which, we can get into the technicality. So I'm very easy, and then I put on a great show. Right. And that's the big thing, with very little to work with. And, and that's a whole journey that I could talk about, which went from, I still remember the first time I really did the language thing was in Germany, when all the German fans had started to hear about me, creating this, big hype before the show. And they were like, so they started giving me suggestions. And this one just didn't make any sense to me culturally. Like, I'm trying to hype a crowd, and this was sort of a down tempo sort of, anyway, and the song's name was really weird. Germans are weird. And so they had the song, and the title of the song was like Planes in the Belly. I was like, what? And so they're like, yeah, you should, and backstage, these executives from, I can't remember the record label. I'm talking to one guy. I'm like, so the fans are suggesting I play this song, or they're like, oh yeah, play that. Oh. I'm like, all right. So can you imagine going into a show in Berlin, 25,000 people, and I've never played this song to an audience in my life. And I'm just like, I don't think this is going to work, because culturally it doesn't make sense to me, right? I put it in, 25,000 people. Like, and like you, and I've got footage of it. I should send you a clip of it, right?
Yeah.
And the crowd's going, and I'm just like in awe. I'm like,
but that's something you're doing that is like so useful, that a lot of people miss, is that just because it doesn't resonate with you, you're going after your like, that's why I fall back into marketing, is like,
yes,
I don't like a lot of things, but that
you got
demographic, I'm going for what the demographic likes, not what
right.
I like.
As a DJ, I learned that from the first club owner I ever worked with. And he said, you know, I wanted to be the realest hip hopper out there. I might have been this kid from the suburbs, but I thought I was making a game. I had to keep it real. And I'll never forget what he said. He's like, you got to keep it realistic. And
I like that.
so my my education is economics. I have a degree in economics.
I have a minor in that. Love
There
it.
you go. That's why we resonate. We understand the business side of it. I'm very
You
blessed.
didn't go to UNLV, did you?
No.
okay.
I'm Canadian, so I went to
Okay.
school
Well,
in
you're in
Canada.
Vegas. I was like, that'd be weird
Yeah.
at the same time.
Yeah, how crazy would that be, right? But but what was so interesting for me is learning to appreciate even from early on, because I was this quote unquote real hip hopper I wanted to be, and it was the club owner. He wanted me to work his college night. He's like, look, you're gonna have to learn to play this Britney Spears stuff and this Backstreet Boys stuff, and I was too cool. But I started playing it, and I actually started appreciating it. I started liking it. I was like, you know, I never wanted to admit it to my gangster friends, but I was like, man, I like this stuff. Never in my life would I think 20 years later I'd be opening for them, you know, in Europe.
So you're more musically inclined than I am. I'm more like business end.
Right.
Other than I personally will like something, but
Right.
oftentimes I get a lot of artists now that will send me their stuff and they're like, take a look, see what you think. And I always preface it with like, I'm happy to listen to your stuff, but I'm not a pro. I can't tell you musically,
Right.
sonically, if this makes sense.
Right.
And my thing is always too, like, I have to hear something multiple times before I warm up to it. Like,
There's just so much more that goes into making a song
well,
succeed.
for example, like I got to preview one of the NSYNC songs before it came out, 24.
No
and
way.
I listened to it and I was like, there is no way this song works. This song is like such a downer. And then now
Really?
I listen to it now and I'm like, that's one of their best. That's
Fascinating,
I always
right?
tell that to people, I'm like, do not listen to my opinion on music.
Well,
like, I'll help
It's
you
very
with it.
complex.
Yeah, and I can help you figure out what is going to sell, not sell. Not as great as like an agent would. They're the pros at if this toy
Yes.
will sell. But I can at least tell you if you're in the right direction. If you send me a song,
But it's also for your audience. Like one of the toughest things for me is I'm also an artist. So I actually have a song where I rap, and I have, as a producer, I made a song with Trey Lorenz. I don't know if you know who that's actually Mariah Carey's duet partner.
wow.
We've become very good friends, actually. He's one of the most amazing human beings you will ever meet.
Awesome.
Trey, like, man, lifelong friend.
So we
out
got
of
big things coming for you that we're going to tease.
Well, you know what? We made this incredible song that we're both very proud of. It's just hit over 100,000+ streams now, which is fantastic. And it's a whole different. It's Afro house. Like I literally sat with him and one of Mariah's other backup
You'll
singers.
have to DM it to me when we're done.
I would love to. I would love it's and we literally in this room that you're listening to me, we sat here and they're R&B singers, right? And I was like, you know, guys, why don't we try some sort of a fusion, right? So I'm playing them drum and bass. I'm playing them dubstep. They're not really familiar with any of this, right? And then I play them like Afro beat, which is sort of like African reggae music. And then I play Afro house. And I'm like, this is actually the hottest thing right now. Like this is blowing up. And I just love what it's about. I love Afro house. I don't know if you know anything about it. But I love, but it's nothing like what I DJ. And so, like, as an artist, that's my challenge is like, where do I want to take things as both DJ, artist, and I mean, so we love making that song. And there's another producer that Trey knows here, a guy by the name of Chris Cox, a platinum selling producer. He was actually the first guy that actually really blew up the sort of electronic remix of R&B songs. So yeah. So do you remember Whitney Houston when she came up with "It's Not Right"?
Yeah.
But it's a.
Yeah.
So do you remember the dance version of that?
Kind of. I do remember it.
So that actually became more popular than the original.
Wow.
So that was this. So that was him. This was Chris Cox. So he's now, and what I love about the guys like me, like I'm almost 50, and I still have my pulse on young. Like I'm still doing college events. I love it. Like I have a great time, whether it's a club or concert, corporate event. I truly embrace it all.
Well,
And that's
has no age. And
totally.
I don't know what you think, but like I was told early last year in 2025, a friend of mine in the industry was like, the nostalgia stuff's going to die after this year. 2025 is
It's going stronger than ever.
And I'm like, it's about to go off. It's about to go off. And it was like a month later that the Sphere shows were publicly announced.
No way.
Like I had to sit and bite my tongue real hard on that
Yeah,
one. But
yeah.
like, no, and then I think we kind of had this discussion earlier where I'm like, it's not oversaturated either because, for example, we just had New Kids on the Block at the same time. Backstreet Boys.
Crazy.
At the same time, Backstreet Boys can do solo stuff. Danny Wood did a solo thing for charity.
No way.
All does well because it's people don't want to necessarily, like if they're going to make a weekend of it, they don't necessarily want to see the same show 3 times, but while they're there, they want to see New Kids. They want to see what Howie is doing separately, what Nick is doing, what Danny is doing, what Donnie is doing.
Yep.
It's really cool to see. Like, it's just same thing with like Joey and AJ's duet shows.
I remember.
Those have anything to do with effect on if Backstreet Boys is going to sell because it's just so different. And it's like
totally.
The fans want to see it all.
Right. So this, I gotta ask you. I gotta ask you.
Yeah.
What do you think? What are the chances? NSYNC.
I think it's gonna happen.
I think it's gotta. I think it's gotta.
I can't tell you when. I have no idea when. But I just can't see it never happening. I think it's going to happen. I think the timing has to be right. They probably need, which would be easy. I say easy. I don't know anything about songs, but like I'm sure they could find a song like they had for JT's album, but I think it takes another good song, which they can find, and the timing to be right, and I think they'll do it. I just don't know when. I don't know their personal schedule, so I don't know when the timing's going to be right. Right.
But, of course, every fan out there wants it to happen, and I think that...
The only request I have is that I can somehow be hired on in some capacity for that show because I can't even imagine what the ticket buying situation is. So that is my only request to NSYNC. Joey Fatone, if you're listening, please hire me in some manner.
Well, Joey, if you're listening, I love the Backstreet Boys. I love you, Backstreet Boys. But if you need another opener, NSYNC, you need a DJ right here.
What is I want NSYNC to have their own moment because they
deserve it.
And they need
totally.
I don't love stadiums, but like their demand is going to be stadiums. Like I would love an arena tour because I just like arena tours better. But they are going to have a demand for a stadium. But after whenever this happens, it would be cool if they did like that Boyband Palooza that everybody has talked. Like Jeff Timmons has pushed this for a decade now, where he wants to do like Backstreet, NSYNC, New Kids, 98, all of them. Maybe. I
mean, that's a stadium.
Yeah, I would like NSYNC to have their own time first because they deserve it. But then hopefully
they do.
Down the road, maybe we're talking 40-year anniversary. We get to do it. Like New Kids on the Block next year is going to be celebrating 40 years of hanging tough.
That's so crazy.
Isn't it?
That's so crazy because I remember like I was in junior high with the New Kids, and man, I still remember all these girls. They just loved them, and of course we were way too cool back then, right? But
what's funny is I was in elementary school when New Kids came out. I had their dolls. And people my friends in elementary school, I was in like 5th grade, would make fun of me for that. And I'm like, other girls, like I guess because we were too soon. Had it been I was made fun of in high school for Backstreet Boys too. I still am. I mean,
I gotta say for me, I it was like my closet thing. Like
and now it's
low key.
Now it's cool for men to say they like.
I know.
Classic songs. And
I know, right?
Did you ever go?
It wasn't
a Sphere show while they were there. Have you seen?
Yeah. I, for the first time, I was in exactly a month to the day. It was February 6th.
You'll notice it's. Like
it was incredible.
40% 100% men, which is not like most Backstreet Boys shows. Like, it is a show for all.
Exactly. And you know what was really cool? All the European fans, a lot of them recognize me, like, that are there. They're like,
Cool.
they want photos with me and stuff, right? And you know, I'm not gonna lie, you know, mentally it's hard, right? Like, I'm looking at this going, if only they had me for this one, you know. But hey, it's like you said, eternally grateful for everything I've had,
Yeah.
you know. But you
It's
know,
hard
and
to. I credit this to a couple of different artists, but like, it's hard to. What do they say? Comparison is the thief of joy. And
Yep,
so, like,
100%.
just to remember sometimes I go back because my Instagram is like a highlight reel. It doesn't.
It is.
show
Me
any
too.
of those
And it's
times.
memories, right?
It is fun when you're in a downtime to go back and look at
Yes.
that and think, wow, look at all these things I've done that I would have never imagined 20 years ago. And then it instantly just puts you into this, like,
The best mood.
yeah, it puts you into a gratefulness mood. And that's what
Yes.
attracts more is when you're grateful
You got
for
it.
the opportunity. So it's a work in progress. I'm not perfect, but I try
No,
to
but
practice that.
it's fascinating. Like, you to me, you really embody, and I keep coming back to my book, and I'm actually, that's what I've always wanted to write a book, and now that I've done it, I highly recommend you do. I bet you could write a book.
I've been told
with-
that a number of times.
And
I
I'm
don't know how
telling you-
do- I don't know how
And I'm
I'll
and I'm
give
telling
you
you,
tips on how you do
start after the show. I'm happy to show you how I did it, and I broke it down, and it's incredibly therapeutic. There are I've had some very dark things happen, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to share them, and then I did put them in the book, and you know, I've had people like tears, like they're like, dude,
Well,
I had
it's
no
probably
idea.
relatable. Most
Yeah.
people don't talk about those things openly, but we all experience them.
Yeah, and I think there are things, as artists, I talk about what we need to talk about, which is I think we've touched on it, but like, this is where maybe I'm different from you. I experience both ends. I get to experience the top end once a year. The rest, I'm experiencing it at a lower level. And I'm dealing with drugs. I'm dealing with people with alcohol problems and these things. And they scare me, honestly. Like, I'm at the point in my life where I just steer clear of all of that. And that's been the resonating, recurring theme that I've seen with artists and battling all kinds of mental health issues. And I am incredibly grateful that I've gotten to experience the level that I have. And so, you know, one of my ultimate goals is to take my understandings from economics and as an artist, and also understanding sociologically what we need as a culture. How do we harness the power of artists in a more healthy way for society and for individuals, from artists to consumers? And everything we've just talked about, I've so enjoyed this conversation. I have no idea how long. I don't even know how long we've been going
I'm
for.
going to say, I'm going to plug this because I wanted it to be on your radar. I'm starting to become more involved. There's a documentary coming out. It's called Orange Avenue.
Okay.
And it's about the musical scene in Orlando from 1995 to 2000.
Okay.
And what I didn't know is that was like the big rock explosion too. So that's where Matchbox 20 started. That's where Creed
No way.
started.
Fascinating.
Swift started there, which I had no idea.
I had no idea.
And then all we know, like, Boybands was a small pocket of it. And what's
Fascinating.
different about this documentary is it's not about the Lou Pearlman scandal. It's about how everybody is intertwined and how
We are as human
agree
beings.
the separation.
We are as human beings.
The reason I wanted to get involved with this project was because it was so like, let's do this in a positive light, and how much
Yes.
everybody gained from it, how much impact it had to
Yes.
this day on the culture. But I think that's the key to what you're saying is like, connection is a big
It's everything.
thing that helps all of us with like succeeding, not being alone.
And
coming out of
and who would have thought that these boy bands from the 90s that were supposed to be a fad, but when I say, like, I could go on for another hour how much I studied the Backstreet
We'll do a
Boys
part two.
watching. We should, because I literally would like literally they're worth studying as a phenomena, right?
sure.
And what they do for society, right? And the tremendously positive impact they have. You know what I love about what they do is there's no overt politics, nothing. And that is truly how we bring people together. We bring them into these positive environments together. And I study this, right? So like it's the hormones we release when we're connected in these ways where we're taken through these emotions, but they're done in a positive way. That is the antidote to what we're going through.
Well, and we're all human. We all want
Yes.
connection. We all want love. We
Yes.
basically all want the same things.
Exactly.
Just have to facilitate it in a way that's safe for everybody. Yeah.
Exactly. So what's next? What's the next chapter for you?
Next for me. Well, next for me, 2 weeks I leave for the 90s tour. So I'm back with
Okay.
the 90s tour. So we're going to be in SoCal
Okay.
for that. And then I am working with a new artist out of Orlando.
Okay.
So I'm thrilled to get back to Orlando for work.
No way.
Love that Orlando circle. So we're not at a place to announce her yet. She's still producing, but that'll come out probably within the next couple of months. So that's next, and then hopefully I'll be asked back for New Kids in June and get to relive that again. So yeah.
Well, I'll be a Boyband Stacy groupie, as I'm sure you've seen in your stories. I love watching your stuff. You really do capture that. Yeah.
We did the thing that I love, because I love Vegas. You know, I lived there for 5 years, and
Yeah.
we did a charity for giving back to charity. Danny Wood has a breast cancer charity after his mother.
No way.
All volunteer. His sister runs it, does not take a dime. Every single dime donated goes directly to breast cancer patients. So there's no
Incredible. Wow.
We did a Local for You. We did a Greens and Proteins collaboration with them.
And I'm a huge health guy. So
yeah, so he picked a meal that he eats, and we did a Greens and Proteins collaboration with them. So we may hopefully do another one with them in June, it's nice to have the local tie-in to Las Vegas and give back to Las Vegas.
It is, man. It is.
Restaurants. You know, everybody kind of suffered over COVID, so if we can.
And you know what? The off-strip restaurants are the most underrated. They are incredible.
And they deliver, so it could be for fans that come in and deliver.
Right.
And he loves Greens and Proteins, so it was an easy,
So cool.
eat that all the time. It was just
So
a
cool.
really good match. So hopefully that happens again, and
Yeah.
possibly, we'll see. And in June.
Either way, we're gonna cross paths, and
Yeah.
I can't even tell you how much I've enjoyed this conversation.
It's been
This-
great. Same. Thank
This
you.
went way over.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for doing this. I'm trying to see the time on it. Yeah, we're well over an hour, so that's really cool.
Awesome.
Let's stay in touch.
Definitely.
I can't even tell you how much I appreciate this. I really hope for all the boy band fans out there, you learned something new. And for all these people that don't experience boy bands and know how awesome the experience is, you got to learn a little more today. And thank you, Stacy.
Thanks
Amazing.
for having me. We'll stay in touch.
You got it. Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.